Okay, so number 2, this is more to do with the sort of lifestyle stuff that we talked about. So the first bit was floor sitting and the reasons why we'll go into, but essentially you're coming down to the floor from standing in a controlled and beautiful manner. And then you get to the floor and you might start off in cross-legged. And then after a few minutes or even seconds, you might get fed up with that and you cross the legs the other way. Maybe there is a butterfly sitting there, so the soles of the feet together, and you can even kind of have a bit of a wiggle while you're in that position. And then maybe we come to our shin box, which we've just done. And then maybe we switch to the other side. And then maybe we come to a straddle stretch. Again, wiggle about, absolutely. And maybe there's one leg out and one leg in because one knee's sore. But by all means, you know, even though you can't be here for long because your knee's not happy, just get there and then come straight back out of it. Yeah. So you can switch sides. You can be sort of more close together with your legs. So a narrow, I don't know what you call it, it's a side sit, I suppose. Again, both sides. Side sit, or you can be more in that 90-90 position that we were playing with before, and again one leg might be sort of slightly further away, but the focus is just on getting your hips and legs moving in whatever fashion. As much as possible, try not to use your hands. You need to kickstand your hands, that's okay. Get to the point where you can't. So if you are going to spend some time on the floor watching the telly, you want to make sure that you're not in that, so we talked about this position. So if when you're on the floor here, you're rounded through the back, especially here, which is what we're trying to change. The best thing is to prop your hips up on something. Rolled up towel, cushion, in my case one of my yoga blocks, so that you can get into that more upright, flat, at least a flat back. If you can't get the curve, that's okay, you're on at least a flat back. And you can pretty much, you know, you can get everything pretty much done here as well. A little bit different kind of movement and feeling, and you might fall off your block. Otherwise, you're just moving your legs around. It's not exactly rocket science. And then we talked about getting to and from the floor. So you're flat on your back or flat on your front, and try to get to standing without hands, whatever that looks like, and as gracefully as possible. And then coming back down to the floor, laying back out. You can come onto your front. In fact, we'll do that. Come onto the front first. So from front, you might come up maybe to all fours, and then to a lunge position, and come up that way. But you just try to come down and up in lots of different ways, whatever that looks like. Without boring you to death watching me do it over and over again. You'll find your own ways of doing it, and eventually aiming to get up and off the floor without your hands. If you are going to do this at night, and it is it's going to be that point where everything's kind of fatiguing, pelvic floor wise, play with how many you do, sort of thing. It's the equivalent of doing squats and lunges, so it does have a bearing down effect on the body. But it's no different to getting in and out of your car or in and out of bed in the morning. In other words, you're doing the sort of same thing. But in this situation, because we're turning it into an exercise, you are more aware, hopefully, more aware of what you're doing in your movement, and you're thinking about it, and you've got that sense of lift and control. Trying to remember where we went to next. Okay, so floor sitting. Oh, the squats to chair. Okay, let me grab a chair. So chairs it in, right to the edge. So shins vertical, which I can see in the camera. And then trying to get out of the chair without shifting or firing the legs forward. So it becomes more of a squat pattern. Same thing as you sit down, you're reaching back with the hips. So if you're at work and you start to forget, you'll bring your feet will be back here and you'll just shoot yourself out of the chair. It's not like I say, it's not like that's wrong, it's just that we're trying to get more movement into your day where we want it. So I'm trying to get the glutes working. So as best you can, without looking strange in front of your colleagues, coming up as, not as slow as you can, but slow it down so that you start to feel the work where we want it, which is at the back rather than all loading up at the front. What we were talking about, the neutral spine position, that curve of the lower back, you're trying to keep that through that motion as opposed to rounding the spine, chest to the floor. I hope that makes some semblance of sense. Oh, lunges. No, I suppose it's not really one that you can do throughout the day, really, but it is useful. So, long position, heel up at the back. Yeah, this back heel wants to be off the floor. And your movement is, as best we can, straight up and straight down. Not bothered how deep it is, but we want to avoid doing this as best we can. You know, you've got one knee that's a bit grumpy, so we've got what we've got on that side, but otherwise, straight up, straight down. When I get to the bottom, wherever the bottom is, and the bottom might be there, that's okay. The shin's vertical, it's not here. So shift your weight back. The more you can drive down through the heel, the more you're going to fire up the glute. And the same thing here, you have a tendency to be looking down at what's going on, chest down. As you can see, rounds out the lower back. So chest up, butt out is going to give you more work through this back end. Yeah, so same on each side. And again, I'd do that just until you're fed up. You're going to be building strength either way, and it is more about getting you moving in the right places at this moment in time than it is about reps and sets. Some days you'll want to do more, some days you'll want to do less. Right, single leg deadlift then. So if I'm working my right leg, I have my left leg just behind, up on the toe. Piece of steel from head to heel, so head to that heel. So the 2 points move together. My head and my foot move at the same time. And I'm hinging on this leg and coming back up. So balance, hip mobility, strength for the glute, all in one exercise. Pivoting over and coming back up. What it doesn't look like is either lifting the foot or letting the chest go first and then picking the foot up. The two things go together. And if I shift my hands, hopefully, turn slightly that way, hopefully you can see lower back stays curved. She says, trying to do it so hard to balance when you're watching something else moving. Bring it back, Kel, bring it back. So lower back stays the same. So again, what it isn't is this kind of bending over at the lower back. Try it on the other foot. So a piece of steel from head to heel, head and foot go at the same time, and back up. Spine stays the same. God, balance is shocking today, apparently. Cracked it now. Should be quite hard. So if you are feeling, if you're feeling just a little bit like, oh, I'm just bending over, coming back up and bending over and coming back up, you know you've kind of not got, you want the tension. So we're looking, like I say, when I say a piece of steel from head to heel, I kind of mean it. You want to feel like there's this tension from here all the way out, which will give you then that sense of being a seesaw, if you like. The head and the foot moving at the same time. And you know, really the best way, it's like I keep looking in there to make sure I'm doing it right for you. Really the best way is to get somebody to video you doing it, or get eyes on from, I don't even know what she's called, your wife, your girlfriend? From your wife, your girlfriend. Get eyes on, or get her to just video it on the phone so you can see, and just see if your back stays nice and straight or whether you bend in the middle. That's the easiest way. So, forgot there. Floor, sit in, single leg deadlift. Yeah, that's it. And then the other bits in between are the ribcage breathing, like we said, the foot rolling on the ball as much as you can. Hopefully you've taken one to work. And the calf stretch was the last one. So the calf stretch, I would do, if you don't have a kind of foam roller or anything like that, just tightly roll up a towel and do it with a towel or any kind of step or block. But essentially all you're doing is follow the foot on and stretching out the calf. This leg that you're working, so this one, the one that's stretching, you want it to be straight. So you can see. And you can't do enough of that at this moment in time, simply because there is so much tightness down the back of your leg. Hamstrings to the back of the thigh, we'll get to them. They're a little bit more tricky to get to because they're usually tight for a reason. They're usually tight because there's something going on. Hips, lower back, and we know that. So as we sort that out, the hamstrings should give you a bit more freedom of movement without you having to do very much. Right, I'm going to stop banging on there. I was going to try and keep these nice and short for you so you didn't have a lot to think about. I'll switch this one off.